Hey, what's going on guys? Welcome back to a brand new video. What I've guessed today are the only builds you need for the Fang shield. If you guys don't know, this is a new shield coming out November 8th, and pretty much all you have to do for it is complete all the legendary missions on the game. Keep in mind that this is non-retroactive, so pretty much what it means is if you have done it in the past, you have to do it again when the shield is active for you to pretty much complete it and get the rewards. Also, I do want to say, although yes, you can use these builds for solo legendary missions kind of adventure, I really would recommend it. As you guys know, the legendary missions are kind of hard, and if you want to get this kind of done really quickly, again, I would recommend using these builds with a team. It doesn't have to be a set squad, it can be randoms. As you guys know, there's going to be a way more kind of matchmaking going on when the shield is active. So if you have trouble matchmaking, that should be no problem. Again, when the shield goes live, a lot of people are going to be playing it. But anyways, enough with the chit chatter. Without further ado, I'm going to go over the build. So if you guys do enjoy this video or find it helpful, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe for more videos, and let's get right into this. So starting off first, we have my DPS build / damage build, and this is something I would use if I see a lot of my teammates are using kind of like Tactician or Reclaimer or pretty much just any support build. If we need a lot of damage, if we need to pretty much, kind of balance our DPS and our support out, this is the build I'm going to be using. So yes, it is a 6-piece classified striker build, and keep in mind I will also have a kind of alternative for you guys as well. If you don't have 6 pieces, I'm going to show you guys a way to make this build again without 6 pieces. You can use a ninja backpack or just use the regular gear and kind of get this build very similar even if you don't have classifieds. So yeah, like I was saying, 6-piece classified striker. This is really good for PvE because yes, although it got nerfed in PvP, for PvE it's still the same. So the damage, the healing, and everything like that is still very, very good. So first of all, for the weapon, I am using the Lightweight M4. This is pretty much my go-to for PvE. I don't think I really use any other weapons except maybe the Warlord, but this is pretty much my main. What I have on it is 24% enemy armor damage, 19.7k base damage, destructive, unforgiving, and predatory. I really like using predatory, especially when I'm running 6k stamina. You guys can kind of flip this and use 9k stamina with 4k firearms. But again, I'm using this when I notice my team is using Reclaimer or Tactician, and I don't really have to focus on healing myself or anything like that. I can just focus mainly on damage DPS because I do know my teammates are running Reclaimer or just a healer build in general. So for that reason, I'm using 7k firearms or 6.7k firearms, and that's why I'm using predatory as well on it, just in case I missed a heal or I'm out of the support station. The predatory can kind of keep me alive, especially in those legendary missions. For the weapon mods, I'm using everything with critical hit chance and then headshot damage on my suppressor and my scope. For PvE, especially in consoles, I like using headshot damage kind of orientated, because for PvP, yes, it's a little bit harder to hit your headshots, but in PvE, the enemy kind of stands still and it's a little bit easier in my opinion. You guys can go ahead and use critical hit damage, whatever you're used to, but for PvE on console, I do switch it out. And then for my secondary, I'm using a M700 Carbon. This is pretty much for any of those situations where we're shooting a boss like far away, especially on like Times Square and stuff like that. This weapon comes in handy. I have Deadly prepared and elevated on it with 169% headshot damage, which is pretty good. And then again, for the weapon mods, I'm using critical hit chance and headshot damage again. Now, moving on to the gear, or I should say the gear mods first. So what I'm using is actually 4% damage to elite mods with 192 stamina for all my kind of gear pieces. I like using damage to elites. I know it's kind of like a win-lose situation because yes, you get more damage to elites, but your like stamina stats or your firearm stats are a little bit lower. So it just really depends what you have. Since I do have these ones, I'm using them, and they kind of help me melt faster in PvE. And if you have damage to elite mods, then I would recommend using them 100%. But if you don't want to use them, you can use something like critical hit chance with firearms or stamina, or even health if you are struggling to stay alive. Now for my performance mods, I'm using all first aid self-heal mods. This is kind of self-explanatory. I am using a overdose, so I wanna keep myself alive and not really depend that much on my healers. Now, for the gear pieces, I do want to show you guys my kind of alternative first. So this is without the ninja backpack. What you can do is have a 4-piece striker setup with a 2-piece nomad. This is pretty much like very similar. It gives you the damage with the striker, and it also gives you the healing with the nomad. The 2 nomad is pretty much giving you 15% health on kill, which for PvE is really good, because again, you're going to have a lot of kind of interactions and a lot of enemies to kill. So that's the first build. The second build I do have for you guys is with an indirect backpack. So what you can do is use an indirect backpack with 3-piece striker, that's pretty much giving you the damage again. Use 1-piece nomad for the health and kill, and use 1 piece of defense, which is pretty much going to give you 15% protection from elites. So if you don't have 6-piece classifieds, again, you can make those builds. They're not going to be as good because obviously the healing with 6k stamina striker, full striker is a little bit better. But it's kind of similar, and again, if you want to do a lot of damage, if you want to use this build, those are the 2 other options you can use. Now moving on to the actual gear, so for the chest piece, I am using a stamina chest piece with health, enemy armor damage, and ammo capacity. Pretty simple over here. Moving down for the mask, we have firearms, enemy armor damage, damage to leads. For the knee pads, we have firearms again with health, increased kill XP, bleed resistance, and damage to leads. Really quickly, you want to make sure you have damage to leads on the mask and the knee pads, really important, especially for legendary missions. For the backpack, we have stamina, health, bleed resistance, nothing too special. For the gloves, we have firearms, assault rifle damage, enemy armor damage, and critical hit damage. And last but not least, we have reload speed on the holster. I really like using reload speed on the holster. I do think it's going to be a bit more beneficial than having critical hit chance on or health or even skill haste on this build. You guys can switch it out. You guys can use crit chance or health, whatever you want. But for me, I like using reload speed just so I can reload a little bit quicker and get back into action. Now moving on, for the abilities, the first thing I'm using is a overdose. This is pretty much like my kind of security, I guess you could say. If my healers are down or whatever the case is, and I have no med kits, this is kind of going to save me a little bit. Not really. I only have 81,000 self-healing, but this is better than nothing. And the final thing I do have is a sticky bomb, and this is the flashbang. I like using these in underground or legendary missions. They are really clutch, especially when you have those scenarios where the enemy's kind of running at you through doorways, or you turn a corner, whatever the case is. You guys know in legendary missions they pretty much kill you instantly if you're not behind cover, or if you get focus fired. So the flashbang's kind of another kind of security measure, I guess you can say. You can switch this out for a flame turret or a pulse or even a immune station if you wish, but I've been using these for a little bit, so I'm sticking with it for now. And lastly, for the talents, I am using critical save, combat medic, strike back, and precision. You can go with adrenaline, you can go with on the move. I decided not to, but you can use pretty much whatever you want for the talents. It's really up to you. So yeah, this is the first build that I would recommend using if you want to go for damage, if you want to go for DPS. The second build I do want to show you guys is pretty much my I would say tank build, and also kind of a solo build if you want to use this in solo. Again, I don't know why you would attempt this solo, but if you wish, this is the build I think will give you the best chance of completing it really easy and really fast. So what it is yes, a 6-piece classified D3 FNC build. This is the ultimate build, I would say, for survival, for tanking the enemy, whatever the case is. This build will not let you down. So the first thing, again, for the weapon, I'm using the house with 23% critical hit chance. And then for the talents, I'm using hurried, deadly, and the card counter exotic talents. I like using hurried, especially with the shield build and legendary missions. It's going to make you reload instantly pretty much, and you're back in action within a second or two. So that's really good. Also, I have deadly on. You could switch this out for predatory or even vicious would be pretty good. But I like using deadly for the extra damage, and that's why I'm using it. For the weapon mods, I'm using everything with critical hit chance, critical hit damage. For the secondary, I am using Warlord, and this is just pretty much a emergency kind of backup weapon. If my shields gets destroyed, or whatever happens, if I accidentally get rid of it, I can switch to this and kind of tank the enemies a little bit more, since it does have the really nice exotic talent, which does damage taken is reduced by 20% while firing, and then the damage is applied when you stop firing. So, again, if my shield gets destroyed or something happens to it, I could switch to this and fight those NPCs kind of one-on-one if it comes down to that. Moving on to the main part of the build, and that is the gear, but really quickly, I do want to show you guys the different alternatives. Again, if you don't have 6-piece classified defense, you can make these builds. So the first one I do want to show you guys is this one. This is actually a 4-piece defense with a Savage Gloves and a Barrett's chest piece. This one's actually really good. You're going to get extra critical hit chance from the Savage Gloves. You're also going to get a little bit more damage and skill power from the Barrett's chest piece. So this one's actually really good as well. And the second version is this one. This is a 3-piece defense with a Ninja Bike backpack and 2 pieces of Striker. The Striker is going to give you the enemy armor damage, which is going to help you shred through the NPCs and make this build even better. So again, if you don't have 6-piece classifieds of defense, you can make those and try them out and see how you like them. But anyways, moving on back to the regular gear. So the first thing I do want to show you guys is my chest piece. So what I have on it is 1658 stamina, 14,000 health, enemy armor damage, ammo capacity, and then for the weapon mods, I'm using a stamina and skill power mod, and another firearms and skill power mod. For the mask, I'm using stamina, skill power, damage leads with a firearms and skill power mod. Moving down for the knee pads, we have stamina, critical hit damage, damage leads, disorientation resistance, increased skill XP, and then we also have another firearms and skill power mod, but this time I'm also using a 4.50% ballistic shield damage resilience mod. For the backpack, I'm using stamina, skill power, bleed resistance, and then I'm also using a firearms and critical hit chance mod with 2 4.50% ballistic shield damage resilience mods. Moving down for the gloves, I'm using stamina, critical hit damage, SMG damage, and enemy armor damage. And last but not least, for the holster, I'm using critical hit chance with a 4.50% ballistic shield damage resilience mod. So yeah, this is pretty much my defense build. Again, if you want to be a tank, if you want to be really tanky and not really be affected that much by the NPCs shooting at you, this is the build you want to use. Also, keep in mind, whenever you're making this build, make sure you are above 121,000 skill power, because that's pretty much when your shield is going to be maxed out on the health at like 2.35 million or something like that. So again, make sure you're above that skill power kind of cap, because if you're under it, then your shield is going to be a little bit weaker and no one really wants that in PvE. Anyways, moving on to the abilities. So the first thing I'm using is a booster shot. This is pretty much for the damage kind of increase, not even the healing, the damage resilience, nothing like that. It is purely for the extra damage, which is going to help me melt those NPC bosses or, you know, those large groups of enemies. If they are rushing us or whatever the case is, this booster shot is going to be kind of helpful. And then for the shield, I'm using the Assault Shield, which again maxes out at 2,350,000 health, which is again maxed out in the game. And then last but not least, for the talents, I'm using Critical Save, Combat Medic, Strike Back, and Precision once again. So yeah, that is pretty much my builds. Those are the 2 builds I will be using 100% in the Fang shield. Also, I do want to say I will be streaming for that shield probably on November 8th, like in the morning. I am Eastern time, so if you guys are online or whatever you want to play. But like I said, I will be streaming when this thing is live, so if you are on Xbox, if you want to party up, or if you just want to come by the stream, ask some questions, whatever the case is, again, I will be streaming November 8th pretty much the entire day. Anyways, that's it for the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have any questions, let me know in the comment section below. I respond to all my comments, but again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.